All right, we need to talk about something. An idea that could honestly change how you deal with, well, pretty much everything. And it all kicks off with something a little provocative.
Yeah, you heard that right. I want you to burn it, rip it to shreds. Because what we're doing today is taking on one of the biggest and frankly most exhausting ideas in the whole self-help world.
Can we just be real for a second? You're tired. I mean, really, truly exhausted, right? It's that deep down, soul level kind of tired. The one that comes from always trying to force things to happen. And you know what? There's a very good reason you feel that way.
I mean, does any of this sound familiar? You wake up, you're chanting these affirmations that you don't really believe. You're trying to force positive thoughts into your head because you're terrified that just one negative thought is going to completely tank your vibe. And the worst part? That wave of guilt that washes over you whenever you have a bad day, like it's some huge personal failure.
Yeah, that relentless pressure, it has a name. It's called toxic positivity. It's this sneaky belief that if you're not happy 24/7, you're somehow failing. It is a total trap. But today we're gonna find the way out.
And that way out, it comes from this really old piece of wisdom. It's a simple little story that shows how we so often create our own suffering. It's called the parable of the two arrows.
So the story goes like this. The Buddha asks his students a super simple question. He says, hey, imagine a person gets hit by an arrow. Is it painful? And the answer is, well, yeah, of course it is. It's that sharp, immediate pain. That's just life. It's unavoidable.
But then he asks the real question. He says, okay, now what if a second arrow hits that person in the exact same spot? Is that even more painful?
And their answer? Unbearable. The pain would be just so much worse. And this, right here, is where the real lesson kicks in. See, this is the genius of the whole thing. That first arrow, that's just life happening, you know? Losing a job, a rainy day, just a wave of sadness. It's the unavoidable pain. But the second arrow, that's the one we shoot ourselves. That's our reaction. It's the judgment, the criticism, that voice in our head screaming, I shouldn't feel this way. I need to be more positive. What is wrong with me? See the difference? The first arrow is pain, but the second one, and this is the key, the second one is suffering.
And that is the fundamental problem with so much of manifestation culture. It doesn't stop the first arrow from hitting you. All it does is hand you a whole quiver full of second arrows and tells you to fire away every single time you feel a perfectly normal human emotion.
So, what's the antidote? Well, it's not trying harder or forcing more positivity. Nope. It's something way quieter and honestly way more powerful. It's the path of acceptance. What we're talking about here is something called radical acceptance. And it sounds intense, but it's actually super simple. It just means you acknowledge the first arrow hit, that's it. You let yourself feel the sting without immediately grabbing that second arrow of judgment.
Here's a great way to think about it. You know when you try to force away a bad feeling? It's exactly like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. I mean, you can do it for a little while, right? But it takes a ton of energy, and we all know what happens eventually. That thing is gonna pop right back up and probably smack you in the face. Acceptance is just letting go of the ball. You just let it float there on the surface next to you. You see it, you acknowledge it's there. You don't have to like it, you don't have to play with it. You just stop fighting it. And that moment you let go, wow, all that energy you were wasting comes flooding back. Okay, so how do you actually do this? It's a really simple 3-step thing. First, you just name it. Say what it is, no judgment. I am feeling anxious. That's it. Second, you allow it. You give yourself permission, and that is okay. And finally, the most important one, you normalize it. You remind yourself, I am human. This isn't giving up, folks. This is true strength. And all of this, it points to a whole new way of moving through the world. One that's not about constantly fighting reality, but about actually living in it, you know, with a little more ease and a lot less struggle. So if you take one thing away, let it be this. Stop gaslighting yourself into being happy. Stop performing joy like you're on a stage. You have full permission to be a messy, complicated, whole human being. And that means feeling all the things.
So I'm gonna leave you with a question, and I really want you to sit with this for a minute. How much energy would you save? How much of your life would you get back if you just stopped trying to fix every feeling you have, and instead just let yourself feel them?
Subscribe for daily wisdom.